Hello again. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about pronunciation of phonemes or sounds. So it's really important that all adults that are working with children, both at school and out of school, are pronouncing sounds correctly with children. Sometimes what can happen is that adults inadvertently pronounce sounds not quite correctly. So an example of that would be p, m, b, w, d. Those are not correct pronunciations of sounds. So I just want to give 3 reasons today why it's really important for all adults working with children to say sounds correctly. So I'm going to start with reading. So if we put that sound on the end of all our letter sounds, then we can end up with reading difficulties. So, for example, let's look at the first word on the board here. If we were sounding that out with incorrect sounds, it could be w, I, th, w-ither. So you're starting to head towards a slightly different word. Similar with this one. If you're pronouncing this incorrectly as per or per, again, it's heading towards a slightly different word. So adding that little sound on the ends of the correct letter sounds can cause difficulties with reading. Second reason why it's really important to say sounds correctly is that it can cause difficulties with spelling. So let's imagine we're trying to spell the word that, and we're sounding it out first, but if we sound it incorrectly, we could end up doing th, a, t, th, a, t. So this is a spelling I've actually seen in a child's work before, this one at the top. So the child has heard what they thought was the word the at the beginning. So they've written the word the, and then we've got a, t on the end. So obviously that's incorrect. Another potential way that children could end up spelling it, if you're sounding it as th, a, t, you might get this. So again, the child has heard th, a, t, and we can all see that actually spelling wise that is a completely different word. Ideally what we want is if it sounded correctly a, t, then we get the correct spelling a, t. And the third reason it's important for all of us to be saying sounds correctly is that it can avoid potentially quite difficult situations. So I'm thinking back to a great many years ago now when I was teaching a reception class, and our new sound that day was this one. So I'd said to the children, and this one is and a little girl put up her hand and she said, "No, my mummy says it's ma." And that was a very difficult situation to be in because obviously I could not sit there and say, well, actually, mummy's wrong. So I very quickly said, well, at school, we're going to call it But obviously, it's much more straightforward if we're doing the same sounds at home and at school. So this is the first in a series of videos I'm going to be doing on correct pronunciation of sounds. So if that's of interest to you, continue to watch the other ones in the series.